to the Global Green Summit 2015, which was held on the third day of ET AceTech in Mumbai. The objective of the event was transiting into the green economy. Here's a look at the inaugural ceremony.
Initiated in 2010, the Global Green Summit has been seen as a platform for industry stalwarts, government players and end consumers to uphold green ideas and sustainable practices. Popularly known as GGS, the summit served as a platform to tackle the challenges India is facing to maintaining and creating a sustainable infrastructure.
The event kicked off with important addresses by luminaries from the world of renewable energy. Take a look.
We would now like to call upon Dr. P.C. Jain to deliver the keynote address.
The theme of the summit today is, how does India transit into the low-carbon economy? We have some amazing examples, some beautiful examples to show what is India's story. One of them, of course, is the AceTech. As you see, the power and the force that they bring into a green building movement in the country. And I'm very grateful that Times Group has always been a partner with this. It brings tremendous credibility to AceTech to be known as ET AceTech Summit. Let me share with you what we are doing in the Indian Green Building Council, which is what I represent. We started our journey in the green building movement in India in 2001. So in 2001, President Clinton came to India to see what was being done with the American investment coming to Hyderabad. He was aghast. There are boulders sitting on the hilltops made when the earth was built, when earth came into existence, and they've been there for millenniums. But our architects, our developer, our builders destroyed that all because somebody came with a picture that this is what I want. Now what they meant was, this is the type of building they want, but do it according to your requirement. We did not do that. We removed the hill, we removed the boulder, we removed the whole hill to create a flat area where the building could be built. So we were given a challenge that if somebody comes from abroad, wants to make a building in India, where does one go for a green business center? Where does one learn what is Indian tradition, what is Indian climate, what should be done for becoming eco-sensitive for India? We did not have one. But fortunately, CII took on the initiative, and I represent that group called Indian Green Building Council. We started our journey with 20,000 square feet. There's a man in your city called Jamshed Godrej, and I'm sure you all know about Godrej Group. He came forward that I will give whatever he requires, but bring India on the world map. Give us a building which will be unequaled anywhere in the world. We should get the highest point of any building anywhere on the planet. We took on the challenge. We made a building in 2003, and I'm glad to share with you, the American jury where the building was sent gave us the highest point of any building at that point existing on the planet in 2003. So our journey started with a big bang. It's called the Godrej Business Center. There are headquarters, still a very monumental building. Today, as I speak to you, ladies and gentlemen, and you must recognize India's story, we are sitting upon 3.2 billion square feet, 320 crore square feet. Give a hand to India for what all of us together have done to bring India on the world map with 320 crore square feet. Are we going to be complacent about it? We have set a date. It's always easy to say, someday we'll get there, but that is not good enough. And the date was decided to be 75 years of independence of India, which happens to be 8 years from today, 15th of August 2022. Today, as I speak to you, we are the world number 2 in terms of green footprint. We have crossed beyond all other countries of the world, but there is one country ahead of us in terms of green footprint. We have set ourselves a target of 10 billion square feet, 1,000 crore square feet. So you must join hands with us, with the AceTech, with the IGBC, make sure that aspiration becomes a reality. So our mission is, when we have the Housing for All mission of Prime Minister of India, that all those housing, nearly 100 million houses are going to be built, that they must become green. And mind you, it doesn't require money to make green. If you follow the code, you're already making green. It's a matter of putting little more your enthusiasm, your passion, your commitment to make it green. And that's exactly what we are doing in the IGBC, is to ensuring these affordable housing, EWS, LIG, become green homes. What is the success story? The ministry has now adopted our guidelines as their brief. So when the Ministry of Housing, Urban Poverty Alleviation gives you land and say, make these houses, they will contain the IGBC green guidelines. So believe it or not, you will anyway make it green because you are following the guideline given by the ministry. That's why I know for sure that we may not even wait till 2022 to happen to cross the coveted landmark of 10 billion square feet. Just go with a little more commitment that you are going to leave behind for your children or for their children not yet born a greener earth. You and I hold responsibility for our future generations that we must leave behind a greener earth than what we inherited. Thank you.
We would now like to invite Mr. Vineet Mittal, Vice Chairman, Wellspun Renewables, the man working towards the Prime Minister's vision of 175 GW renewable energy by establishing mega renewable energy projects in India. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mittal.
Very warm welcome to the Global Green Summit. It's a really unique summit because first time I am seeing personally where the building industry, which has a very big role to play in sustainable development of India, also getting involved in this entire ecosystem to ensure that we live a sustainable life and our future growth has sustainability included in it. I think I very strongly believe that all of us are born with a purpose in life, and our purpose should be larger than just selfish. Once our own needs are met, we should look at how we can make our life more meaningful for the rest of the society and do something which is more sustainable, which causes more good, and company like us is actually a great example. We are not in this business for charity. We are making good money, but making it responsibly by doing good for the society. So my theory is that you can do good, larger good for humankind. You have to have the heart, and you have to have the vision that by doing good for the society, it will eventually benefit you and your near ones as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
So our winner was unanimously adjudged the Green Hero by the jury for uniqueness of idea and applicability and scalability of his innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner is Mr. Narayan Pisapati.
Time for a short break. Stay tuned for a lot more on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching the Global Green Summit 2015. The discourse on green buildings and sustainable architecture has many facets. The first session of the event this year delved into one of the most pertinent aspects in the Indian context. Take a look.
The steep ascent of residential projects has been one of the biggest challenges of the realty sector. Taking this agenda ahead, GGS witnessed engaging presentations and real-world case studies complemented by a panel discussion on affordable housing.
It's very important that we consider social sustainability issues with environmental sustainability issues for it to be actually feasible in the long run. And I'm really glad that Global Green Summit, instead of having actually a very narrow vision of sustainability and environmental green building, has actually expanded the scope of the dialogue and discussion in terms of the content as well as the panelists. So very happy to be here.
In case of Dharavi, there are three facets that we've taken care of: inclusive development, sustainable growth, and using eco-housing criteria. So all of this in a sustainable manner. And we've done it in a way that poverty alleviation can take place, and therefore at some point socio-economic integration of the people of Dharavi versus the rest of the citizens of Mumbai can take place.
Of course, India has a quite big growth, and the energy demand is still in India much more than the actual supply. In a city where I stay in Gurgaon, there we are running almost 25 to 30% on genset, which is of course a quite expensive thing, and it's also harmful for the environment because the generator power is a lot of consumption of oil again, and therefore it's quite important to create buildings where all those things, the demand of energy is getting less. Air conditioning is becoming less, I'm using my natural lighting and all those things, till the waste management, all those things are in the right stage at the moment, and of course when we are bringing the people together to make a right platform, then the benefit will come to the country because the knowledge and the awareness is going to get increased.
The entire real estate professionals,
GGS acted as a platform to round up various agendas with intellectual panel discussions. One of the few interesting topics debated at GGS was on the role of facilities management of companies in motivating a sustainable culture.
In terms of what's a facility manager to do in a building, to make sure the theme is sustainability. So what's he has to look around that. First and foremost is he has to know what the building is designed for and how was it designed and what was its original parameters. That could be on energy, it could be on water consumption, it could be on the electrical load that the building has, air conditioning load, just the waste management, how it was planned. Because what we generally have seen is that buildings are made, designs, wonderful designs, but the people who are operating it don't really get down to understand what the basic design was. Maybe older buildings, 10 years, it gets even more difficult. So as a building manager, as the custodians of the building, it's very important to understand what the basic parameters are and then see how to operate the building around those parameters. I think that's one way to at least achieve those goals of sustainability.
One of the most heartening factors is that facility managers are getting a platform today. We operate a building and we have influence over the building for 95% of its life cycle. So it's only natural that, and we are the influencers or we are the stakeholders who ensure that the building performs to its sustainability design commitment, right? So it's very, very, very important for us to get a voice as a facility management community and for us to also get feedback, right? So us to get a voice in a sense to let the design fraternity and the construction fraternity know what the challenges are that we as facility operators face, and then for us to get a feedback from end consumers of our services, which then we can take on board and try and constructively alter our courses to ensure that we are able to deliver a sustainability promise for the real estate.
Moving on from management to the grassroots level, the third session of GGS 2015 focused on the topic of disruptive innovations for a sustainable future.
We're actually enhancing our exposure.
What is sustainability? What is grassroots disruptive sustainability? The word grassroots means obviously at the very basic level, maybe the village level, something that common people use. Disruptive, where it could possibly change the marketplace. An innovation which would be sustainable, where it would not harm the environment, where it could be used again and again, and each time bringing benefits both to the producer and to the user.
Industrialization, when it started the demolition of the ecology. Darwin's theory and all these, whatever the beasts, the survival of the fittest and everything, all that will show you that the industrialization has caused some of the moths to change their colors, and those moths which had color matching with the suit, they survived, but those moths without matching that suit, they got eaten up. And so that shows how bad the industrialization is unless it is properly structured. And we haven't learned anything from these. Now, at least now we are opening our eyes, and transitioning to a green economy is certainly the need of the hour. Perhaps we are a couple of decades late. The world is a couple of decades late. We're doing a lot of damage to ourselves. We're doing a lot of damage to the sustainability of our next generation. Okay, the way things are moving now, I'm sure we're going to face water insecurity, we're going to face food insecurity, we're going to face job insecurity. Okay, unless and until we have a balanced, sustainable vision. And fortunately, transitioning to green economy talks and has that kind of a vision. And I'm very happy to be here to participate in these discussions and learn from other people what they are doing.
Now, I'm getting really tempted with all those food stalls behind me. So while I take a round, you take a quick break and come right back. You're watching the Global Green Summit 2015. Now, the new government had launched several key initiatives to set the country on a path of development. How does an infrastructure of sustainable architecture contribute to this growth? Let's find out.
The Global Green Summit aims to unite architects, engineers, developers, government bodies and relevant decision makers. Taking a lead from the Make in India agenda of a green-built environment, the post-launch panel discussion focused on the issues, challenges and recommended a few solutions for the same.
When you say Make in India, it is not only the products and technologies that comes over there, it is also to take care of the substantial amount of indigenous, traditional, vernacular practices which we have done for years. 300 years, 400 years, 1000 years back, but understanding our climate and understanding our overall environment and designing that particular thing to deal with sustainable elements. The green building component is all about sustainability, all about the resources that you have, natural resource of land as a resource, water as a resource, energy as a resource, air as a resource, building materials and technology as a resource, because you have to extract that from the ground, be it the bricks that you use, or tiles that you use, concrete that you want, the sand that you want. So it's all using all these resources in a very optimal manner, in an effective manner, in an efficient manner, in an economical manner, so that at the end of it, we lead to more and more of construction without losing all those resources for the next generations to catch up. That's all the message.
I am from Plastic Piping Company. I am the head of the product development activities. And I am proud to say that Supreme is the only company to offer total solution for any building or built environment. So far, we have introduced many innovative products like underground drainage system, manholes for sewerage application, then various water supply, hot and cold water system. And there are many products in pipeline like DWC pipe, double wall corrugated pipes, then septic tanks, ready-made septic tanks, and fire sprinkler system. All these pipes are eco-friendly and most helpful for this green built environment. Now, before that, I would like to comment on, to mention here that how plastic piping products are advantageous for this built environment. In any built environment, when we talk about the green aspect, the energy efficiency and water efficiency are very important. When it comes to plastic piping, they are much energy efficient, starting from raw material manufacturing to finished product manufacturing. The energy requirement is very less.
We are looking towards a world that is rapidly developing, but it is currently leading to a lot of jobless growth. So really, when we talk about make in India, we are looking towards employment, which is one of the biggest economic indicators that we seem to have forgotten in our rush for industrial development and consumption-led growth. And it's really only when people have productive and good jobs that they can even be responsible consumers.
The focus was what initiatives should entrepreneurs take in India to ensure that we deliver sustainable products to the customers. And I think the key takeaway from this, from my point of view, is to ensure that we do not have mindless production of goods. We have seen the industrial revolution in Europe on one hand, and we have seen the Chinese manufacturing on the other hand. And you see, people still believe that European product is better than a Chinese product, but when they come to buying the product, they invariably decide to go with price. What we should do, I think we should do in India is to decide a bottom line for specifications, and that is where building codes come in. And we say, okay, if we have to produce in India, then we would want to be more recognized closer to the European model than to the Chinese model.
Now, energy is all we need to pull off those tiring days, and if that becomes renewable, it's just the perfect cherry on the cake. Let's show you how to do that by listening into the session on making renewable energy mainstream.
Or very, very little amount of
India has pledged a 4-fold hike in renewable energy by 2022. To outline the schema to take renewable energy mainstream, GGS brought industry stalwarts together to brainstorm on the topic.
And if you also notice that all their curtains are... You can't really mainstream renewable energy. If you have to mainstream renewable energy, it has to be a holistic approach. So one needs to look at demand side management, one needs to look at urban ecosystems, one needs to look at waste management, one needs to look at the last mile delivery in terms of including the poorest of the poor, and then perhaps mainstreaming renewable energy could be something that we could look at. Currently, we personally felt as a group that it's being looked at from a pure business perspective, that it makes business sense, so we should get into it. But we felt that a slightly more pragmatic approach that is more catered to the Indian context would be more appropriate.
The one thing that's on everybody's mind is smart cities. Take a look at the session on sustainable smart cities.
I wanted to start the discussion.
Smart city is one of the mega trends of modern India, and GGS 2015 focused on the same agenda. The panel discussion on sustainable smart cities discussed various challenges in creating smart and responsible cities for a sustainable future.
I expect that our discussion on smart cities, which is looking into the future of what's going to happen as our cities grow, as new cities establish, and also as our cities change. That's what we're going to look into. But what my key concern is, and I hope this will be a subject of keen discussion, is how do we measure the direction in which our city is changing and growing? What will be the metrics for sustainable growth of the city? I propose a series of metrics that we should follow. In fact, the big data, which is the promise of smart cities in their management, in their efficiency, in their communication technology, the big data should become a feedback to the growth of the city towards sustainability. So we should measure, I would suggest, what is in real time the per capita consumption of electricity in the city. In real time, we should measure what is the per capita consumption of fuel for transportation in the city. We should measure what is the per capita consumption of built space in the city. And we should also measure what is the Gini index of the city, what is the distribution of wealth. It's when we have more even distribution of wealth with lowering per capita consumption of fuel and electricity, that is when we are moving towards sustainability.
With all those sessions, one thing is clear, that green and green alone is the way forward for a sustainable future. We hope this show has given you enough food for thought to contribute to a green globe. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.